Welcome to the PESTA Team Talk series where we talk about everything physical education. I am Nasrun, Master Teacher in PESTA. With me, I have 3 other guests, so let them introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Sherlyn from River Valley Primary School.
I am Hanif, Principal Master Teacher at PESTA.
I'm Fazlin, Lead Teacher from Singhua Primary School.
Thank you, and I'm very honored to have them with us today. Today, we're going to talk about a topic which is very close to our hearts, and that is 21CC, or 21st Century Competencies. And I think today we are going to perhaps for you to share your experiences, your knowledge about 21CC. Maybe the first question, how much have you embraced it? What is your journey for 21CC? Anyone? Yeah.
Okay, if I may start. Not too long ago, some of us might remember Teach Less, Learn More, right? So Teach Less, Learn More than a decade ago, but that was my first foray into 21st Century Competencies. And then I was a research activist in the program, part of that Teach Less, Learn More. And the inquiry that I was doing in school then was about the development of social emotional competencies and how that encourages classroom engagement. So I recall it was an outdoor education PE lesson, and I was doing facilitating specifically, explicitly the development of social emotional competencies. And the research was about not just to investigate the development of social emotional competencies during PE, but I was also investigating, researching upon their classroom engagement in their own academic classrooms. So I remember interviewing their maths teacher, their English teacher, and that was over a term. And we found out, and this is attested by the academic subject teachers as well, that through the development of social emotional competencies, they realized that the classroom engagement was so much higher than before. And that was really my first foray, and I did some collaboration with then Outdoor Education Unit at MOE. The guidance branch were responsible for social emotional competencies, and kind of the rest were history. Then, yep, as probably some of us might know, I came to PESTA, and I was in charge of the PEM research. I was a principal investigator for PEM research, and that led to the crafting of the PE syllabus. So, that was more than a decade of history in my foray into social emotional competencies. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think we have the right person here with us today. But I think since the PEM research, many developments have occurred. And I think today we have 2 lead teachers with us who are very much into the practical part or the practitioner part about PEM research. But perhaps before we go deeper into that, maybe Fazlin, 21CC and you, what is it like?
We zoom back before the PEM research.
Oh, you're gonna zoom?
way back.
Zooming, huh?
1999. I think as a PE teacher, normally when we plan lessons, right, we always have this domain, the affective domain, about how we want to develop, right? But when I was young, yeah. So there's
Are you still young? No.
I am still. So there's no intentional or deliberate teaching of the affective domain. Yeah. So it's more like, okay, maybe I want to bring in, or I want to highlight the value of respect, but it wasn't done intentionally during the lesson. So I came to know this PEM research when I read the report. Then the research unpacked these effective learning opportunities. Then we can leverage that. So that gives me an idea how to instill teaching of values in the class. So that gives me some idea of how to teach of values, how to bring up the elements of the SEC and so on. So from then on, I've been looking into how to make it easy now for my teachers to really plan a lesson, bring in or intentionally teach especially the E21CC. Yeah.
Yeah, I can connect with that. I think before the PEM research,
So we keep zooming back before the PEM research.
yeah, exactly. You see,
Long.
perspective then introspective. I think before PEM research, I thought I was teaching values. I was talking about values, but I find myself always waiting for teachable moments lah. If it happens, it happens. If not, okay, then all good. Yeah. So I think the PEM research gave us a more focused or more intentional approach towards infusing 21CC in our students lah. And that's where I realized, hey, I am just scratching the surface only. There's much deeper, elements to it that I haven't explored yet. And I think through that PEM research, I realized it has to be intentional, okay, for students to, to at least know, hey, I am not learning just a value, but how to, act out that value, how to show it, and how do I know I have learned it, lah. Yeah.
Sherlyn, might you be wondering why he spoke a lot about the PEM research, but he was actually my research participant in the
Yes,
research.
I'm also subject. Yeah, I was
Oh, you were one of them. So actually, the PEM research, I think my school was involved. Was it more than 10 years ago?
It's probably about 10 years. Yeah.
So I wasn't personally involved, but my colleagues were involved. So after the research, of course, they did share their learnings from the research, and then so we also had the pre-research and post-research era for me to reflect upon. So before that, I think like I echo what Nas mentioned about how when it comes, effective learning values. It wasn't something that we were talking about. It's just within the class, in our own classroom, in the way we enact it. So it's very different from classroom to classroom. Some they exist, or some exist and we didn't even realize we are actually enacting it. So I think the PEM research sort of gave us, it's like codifying what we were doing. Yeah, so I think terms like pedagogical practices, like, creating the environment or engagement of learning, all that, these terms come in. So when the teachers get together, we use these terms to discuss about how we create environment for effective learning to take place. And also like what just now Faz mentioned about the effective learning opportunities. So, with all this codification, it's much easier for the teachers to come together and talk about how we can better structure it, better build processes in for it to happen in the classroom. So the research, post-research, and even until now, it's still work in progress. How we are enacting it in class, we have been trying things out, how it can be better, can be refined, can be removed, can be added on. Yeah, so on the ground, we are still learning. Yeah.
If allow me to add on, I think post research, I think you all did share about your works in this research. So I learned from your school and Nas school, previously, you all did this mapping of the values, right? Like how does respect look like at P1 or and a P6. So I think that is one way how when we do a research, it will make us go in depth into the topic and really surface something that is valuable for the fraternity.
Yeah.
So I think you brought a very good point there, I think both of you, where one of the expectation at that point of time, although the research at that point of time was rather exploratory, we didn't know what we're going to come up with because the affective domain, you mentioned affective domain earlier, was kind of problematic from the academic sense. We didn't quite know how to codify things, how to define things, how to set lesson objectives and so on. But one of the expectation of that research is to see whether we can codify what is the affective domain in the PE setting, contextualized to Singapore. I think that was a very key thing. It was a very expensive research that spanned over 2 years, but one of the outcome is really to understand that it must be behaviorally observable. Hence, it's easier for teachers to facilitate. And in order for it to be behaviorally observable, the teacher must be able to then scope necessarily at what developmental stages and so on. So what we've learned as part of the research team from that research is then how can we draft the syllabus, because it has never been done in the history of PE in Singapore, a syllabus stating learning outcomes for the affective domain. And it was very timely. It was SG50 that we launched the 2014 PE syllabus. So it was together with the SG50 celebration that we launched the learning outcomes for the affective domain for the first time in Singapore.
That's right.
That was on page 29 of the 2014 syllabus.
Oh, so you remember the page. What about the second word of the third paragraph?
Chapter 2. I think that was a groundbreaking work, for us teachers in schools, right? It gives us a sort of a compass point on the outcomes that we need to go towards. Otherwise, it's just respect, responsibility, and resilience, for example. That's the core values. So this is something I felt that we have gone away from from the focus on core values into now the social emotional competencies, and then I think recently from the work plan seminar announcements, right?
Yeah.
More focus lah on the E21CC.
Imagine too.
Perhaps from your own experiences lah, what does a class that whose teacher infuses 21CC, what does it look like, feel like, sound like, or taste like?
I collaborated with Pesta last year, right? So we try to intentionally teach the emerging 21CC in school. Again, at that point in time, I don't really know how to develop that pervasively or deliberately. So we have this idea. We use the thematic approach. So instead of crafting the unit plan based on the psychomotor domain, so we thought, why not we make it into a theme? Let's say the theme last year was we did student voice. So that was a theme of student voice. Then I designed about 4 lessons based on that. So what we see is that deliberate planning of the content, like okay, there'll be one session that a few minutes that they will have a team talk, because it's a primary 6 lesson. So when they want to attack and defend, normally we don't give them time to plan, right? We say okay, 3v3, take this ball and go and play, right? So the team don't have that time to really plan for their attacking, let's say. But when I was planning my lessons, this is the part one I miss, right? So this is an opportunity, which is the effective learning opportunity. So I leverage on that, then to give them, let's say, 2 minutes of team talk. So come up with a strategy that is successful to your team to attack. Yeah. So I see a lot of discussion, and I also see my quiet students begin to give some inputs. Yeah. So I think that's what I saw last year. That's very valuable to me.
I think I want to layer piggybacking on what you just mentioned. The 5 effective learning opportunities, right? So we know there's explicit teaching, we know there's didactic, there's content setting and didactic interaction, but it does not mean that the lesson is very top down and fully teacher directed.
Correct.
Explicit means you are intentional about what you want. I think that's what we heard from you, that you want to encourage that collaboration, you want to encourage that communication for them to think about possible strategies, right? So it was intentionally done that way. It wasn't a top down on your part as a teacher to give them. And we talk about explicit teaching. Then about didactic interaction, it's not to be mistaken with didactic teaching. No, we don't want didactic teaching, but the term didactic interaction in there is by design you get your students to talk to each other. And I think that's the wonderful part, that what we can see, the students' voice, the students' choice being enacted through that PE lesson. Wonderful, I must say.
That's right. I think to piggyback on your piggyback.
Okay, are you sure you can carry 3 of us?
I think I've always used this analogy of the kuih lapis. When we first started out, we were always reminded, PE, you have to maximize that movement time, right? Lesser talk time by the teacher, make sure that the psychomotor outcomes are very much the focus. So I think we first started with that, but I think as we evolve, we felt that the psychomotor, cognitive, and affective, they should lend to almost a balanced focus. I think that's something that you are going towards, right? So the kuih lapis is basically, you have the layered, right? So that whole kuih lapis is the structure. And then I think the trick is how then we can infuse through the content setting, through all those ALOs, how then we can layer in those opportunities nicely without losing the focus for the whole lesson. So because teachers are worried, hey, 21CC, no time then they play less, they talk so much and all that. So I think the trick is in how we plan to have those kinds of interactions happening. If our lesson is focusing on, let's say, collaboration, sekali our task is just individual task, then where's the collaboration there? So I think this has to be intentional, and it, maybe perhaps it starts from the planning stage, how we can layer in those things similar.
Maybe I just want to add on.
Are you gonna piggyback on the piggyback?
Oh, yeah.
Got 3 picks again.
I'll be at the base.
Kuih lapis,
Piggyback some more. The top of the kuih lapis now. Actually, I'm just, when you were saying how it looks like, so I think for River Valley, we have this all the we will use the whiteboard. We will always state the success criteria,
Okay.
the learning outcome, the what and I can, you know. So we encourage the teachers as much as we can. We will put the effective learning outcomes. Yeah. So maybe if it's going to be, because content setting, very naturally, every lesson in PE is a natural platform, right? You know, we get the kids to interact, mass groups or pairs. They always get to be in a setting where there will be teachable moments. So I thought, like when you mentioned about intentionality, so we will try and just write down, just bring the attention of the kids to today when you are with a partner, what can you show? Collaboration, how does it look like? Yeah, just like maybe that 1 minute of, you know, bringing the attention, getting the kids to be aware, and structuring in the lesson, the end of the lesson to unpack, like, did you do this? Did you observe this? How did you do that? Or even within the lesson when the teacher is observing and the way the teacher communicates with the students or even to the masses, like, hey, I see someone doing this. I think all these will very naturally make it every day. You don't have to specifically put 10 minutes, but it can be infused in the lesson. Yeah.
If I were to throw in another kuih lapis on top, you mentioned just now about that teaching of the values. That was me before the family research. Because really, the lesson is all about, okay, today class we are going to learn respect.
Okay.
So how does a respect look like? So it's very deliberate teaching. That kept made me think is that, am I the person to teach values? Am I the right person to teach values? Yeah. So who am I that I can take that stand, that I can teach values? So that was long ago lah. So just now Sherlyn mentioned about the success criteria. So last year what I learned is that if I want to teach students the skill of critical thinking, then I can put it inside the lesson. So instead of I coming up with the success criteria, so I design that lesson. I give them that tactical problem. I say, okay, your job now is to score, right? So while you are playing, you should be able to come up with 1 or 2 successful moves. So I let them play. So once they come back, then we discuss what would be the good move for your team. So when they write it on the board, then I realize, that is actually their success criteria, and they are the one who own it. So that lesson, I see a lot of students' involvement, engagement, a lot in terms of cognitive, in terms of psychomotor. I think that's how rich a lesson can be if we deliberately put in the elements of E21CC, SEC, and so on.
It's a very good point there. If you look at, Nas, you mentioned work plan seminar, right? So work plan seminar, Minister kind of gave the priority areas. And then we've got emerging 21CC. If you look at the framework, there's so many terms out there. But he kind of identified 4 that perhaps we want to give a little bit of an attention, especially for the very VUCA world ahead.
Yes.
Adaptive thinking, inventive thinking, communication, and then civic literacy. So maybe what we heard from Faz earlier, it's deliberate to present a platform for the students to be adaptive and inventive when solving that tactical situation. And the fact that they don't work alone, the fact that they communicate in groups is also, while you are leveraging, the way I see it, leveraging didactic interaction and the content setting, it is also to develop further that communication competency skills. So it's like, not that I'm a violent person, it's not like kill 2 birds with 1 stone, but you've almost hit 3 there with adaptive thinking, adaptive thinking, inventive thinking, as well as communication skills there. Yeah, that's really the perfect kuih lapis.
That's right. Just to share, a teacher shared with me yesterday, because you were working on something, and I know that NAFA test is back, right? That 5-letter word is back already. So of course, every lesson now starts with a run on that, right? So I just told the teacher one simple thing, like, how can you make the run a bit more 21CC infused, So we talk about a few ideas, and then we talk about, hey, why don't we break the class into smaller groups, and then after that, give each group a target, or let them come with their own targets. In 5 minutes, as a group target, how many runs do you think you can make? And then with one condition, no one gets left behind, right? So with just that simple instruction, right, he saw a different behavior in the class. They are now looking back, hey, are you okay? Can you make it? You want us to slow down? Okay. So with that one instruction, no one gets left behind. Okay, you have a group target, and then it changes. Yeah, so that is just something that to me is easier for us to do, is doable on a simple task lah.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not at the expense of the physicality
Exactly,
of the subject,
yes.
right? Yeah. So we've heard some comments or maybe some query or people with a certain apprehension that, hey, if we focus on the affective domain, whether it's the values, the social emotional competencies, or now with the emerging 21CC, are we discounting the physicality?
That's right.
Are we moving away by getting students to always talk in groups and all that? I mean, that your example showed that a simple change of instruction encourage a certain desired set of behavior. I think similarly your example as well and yours, where these things, if we give a bit of a thought, a bit of intentionality to it, for sure physicality will not be compromised.
That's right.
If I can share that running practice for an alpha, right? So how I did with my lesson was instead of telling them to run 5 rounds at all, so I call it a conversational run. So if they are in the partner, later on if they are playing a game with the partner, so they will run with the partner. So I will prep them earlier that, okay, later you all play 2 versus 2. Right? So take this run to plan for your strategy of how to attack. So it's called a conversational run. So how they regulate themselves is that I told them that if you cannot speak to your partner while you're running, that means you're running too fast. Yeah. And as long as you're jogging, I think that's fine with me. So when I say go, I really see them talking and at the speed the one I want them to run at. Yeah. Instead of they just sprint.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good move. I just read about that move, the walk and talk. Yeah. So now you run and talk. I think that's good. So I think that's a topic for them to talk about rather than just you all sit and discuss, right? I also saw some teachers say doing stand and talk, right? But walk and talk or run and talk, I think that's a very good strategy.
We might want to write a teaching action for specific for PE. STP is always evolving,
Exactly.
and this could be a particular teaching action
Yes.
as part of collaboration to establish positive classroom culture.
Exactly.
Walk and talk power.
I'll be happy to work with.
Shall we go and walk now?
The crew follow us.
Okay. Thanks for mentioning the STP lah. I think again at the back of many teachers' minds, we have a lot of frameworks lah, for us to be guided with. We have the 21CC framework, and then we have the STP as well lah. Maybe you can just run through a bit for teachers who are not sure yet. How can they use the STP? At the same time, they are also infusing 21CC in their lessons lah. Yeah. How do we find the alignment? That if I'm doing this, I'm sure to hit the STP teaching actions or teaching areas. Yeah. Anyway.
STP. Actually, everything we do is STP, right? So I mean, maybe I can answer your question in another way.
Sure. Yeah.
I feel that, okay, to me, on the ground, it's overwhelming when teachers see, wow, so many things, how to enact, or even lesson observation. You want to see everything, or school leaders want to see everything. So I think the key thing as maybe people who can, we can influence HODs or we can collaborate with HODs to talk about how we want to put structures in place so that it looks digestible, it looks doable. Because I think that's our role to help teachers to feel that actually it's not that difficult. I mean, it's still difficult, but it's baby steps. Like scaffold it for the teachers. Okay. So, I mean, for my school, we are quite massive because we actually tried to map the school's leadership qualities with the values. And then we help, as a team together, we help the teachers to look at how we don't have to do everything at once, but we can be very targeted. So in a way, we try to say, we did cover everything in a structured manner. And then we try to have opportunities to just touch base with the teachers, how this is going. Yeah. And so that's a big map of putting things into term 1, 2, 3, 4. And then within the lessons, we also try to have some processes we have been trying and refining. So a few things which I wouldn't say we were very successful, but these were attempts that we actually tried to make it intentional and explicit, and actually also taking up physical time, physical activity time, was we actually had this reflection report or formative assessment. We call it the formative assessment. So we got the kids to look at this four different leadership qualities, schools leadership qualities, and then we got them to self-assess. Yeah. And then they read through, and then we explain, make it really, really explicit, and then they self-assess, and then the teachers look at how they assess, and then we observe, through the PE lessons, we just reiterate the focus for each term. And then they get to look at it again in the middle of the year, and then they look at it again at the end of the year. So this is a process we put in place. But upon reflection, just wanted to add on to what Hanif said about how it could take time from physical activity. We realized that teachers were also a little bit stressed with having to do this piece of work. Yeah, so I'm just sharing the struggle.
Sure.
Yeah, putting structures in place and weighing the feasibility on the ground. Yeah, so the intent may be good, but are teachers ready to enact? How effective is it on the ground? So we also did survey with the students to see how much they think this has impacted them. Yeah, so these things I feel needs to be done, but in a measured way, and also always constantly reviewing. I don't know whether I answered your question, but this thing just came to my mind. So I thought of just sharing.
But you brought up, maybe you open up to maybe another dimension of this conversation, teacher's favorite question. How do I know that they have learned it?
They have?
They have learned values,
Yeah.
picked up the values.
Because
How do I assess values?
I was about to add on to that, because you're talking about that assessment frequently, right? So my PE department, we adapted the first element of EPAD, which is the constructive alignment. So designing first with your learning objective, right? Then identify the assessment component to inform teachers that the students have learned. So that is very, very crucial. Then we design that learning experiences. So that learning prep under the STP learning prep, right, is very crucial for teachers to look at the end about the A and F, that means the assessment and feedback. Then from there, we can tie in that entire lesson and make it very, very tight. So my department is doing that. And to assist that this year, in our scheme of work, we will put in the relevant E21CC milestone statement to remind teachers, for this learning LO, you can develop this 21CC. So that will prompt teacher to, when you plan for the entire week, right, this can be something that can be inside your mind to develop. Yeah, so that's how we help teachers to make it, like what you said, don't make it so painful for them. Be easy for them.
So I think on the ground, that's the challenge that we face. Yeah, that we plan something with good intention, but on the ground, maybe sometimes even it becomes a chore. Maybe then you might as well not do it. So maybe the focus, maybe for certain teachers, the focus would be quality teaching. If you are already struggling with classroom management or quality teaching, then this may not be their priority. So it will be which one first kind.
Here's my personal take to this, to this issue. Yes, assessment is key because assessment kind of defines where is that destination. So if we don't know where we're heading, we don't have the end in mind, we will be lost. There's no pedagogy to direct to direct the teacher to teach, and to direct the students to learn to meet that destination. However, if you talk about whether the values or the SEC or the emerging 21CC, it's about developing dispositions. So it's not just skills. A set of skills will probably lead to a competency, and the depth, the deepening of the competency leads to a disposition. And I think this is where PE is a wonderful platform to help develop disposition. And not everything that counts can be counted. Not everything that can be counted counts. So, not me. I think it was attributed attributed to Albert Einstein. I'm not quite sure about that, but yeah. So not everything that can be counted counts. Yes. Not everything that counts can be counted. So if we are too short-sighted to really assess and put figures and ticks and words in a report, then do we fall into a trap, right? Yeah. That does not mean we are not explicit about it. Yes, we set ourselves a target, a milestone, a destination, but sometimes things need to brew nicely over time for it to be a disposition. So this is my take. If we kind of taking that question earlier about how does this link to STP, if you look at the 4 teaching processes, right? First, positive classroom culture. So in order for us to reach that destination, what sort of positive classroom culture do we want to establish? Setting of routine and expectation is definitely something. So the routine is what I think your example earlier by and yours as well about getting students to set what do they want, what is their success criteria. And from there you get that ownership, right? The ownership, the student's voice, choice is evident. What does the teacher do? The teacher facilitate further that development of disposition. Think long term. And then moving on to lesson preparation. What sort of, how do you scaffold the learning process? Do you throw them in a deep end? I hope not. We scaffold such that it is right at their readiness level at whichever point. And once we've done that, the lesson, so that's PCC, positive classroom culture. The second one on lesson preparation, lesson enactment. What sort of teaching strategies do you enact? If you want a lesson, if we want a lesson that develops, say, that adaptive thinking and that inventive thinking, then our lesson, the pedagogy that we do, the teaching strategies cannot be a teacher-directed one, for sure. So it has got to be perhaps more IBL-like, inquiry-like, very open-ended on that end of the spectrum, right? So that is what we want to do. And finally, again, coming back to the E21CC and the 4th teaching process of assessment and feedback, practice for mastery. That's one of the teaching area under assessment and feedback. So in this case, the practice for mastery is not about perfecting a skill such that you can replicate one student to the other. What is masterful for one student might be different by another. And it's beyond the psychomotor masterfulness or the mastery of it. It's also the disposition, the whether it's the values or the social-emotional competencies or the emerging 21CC disposition that we want to create. So I'm just trying to put together a frame using STP as a frame. So it's not about we following STP, because after all, the 4 teaching processes are the key bedrock of quality teaching and learning, and it applies to everyone. So we're trying to put how does it fit, what is a natural fit for PE here.
That's right.
Just now Hanif mentioned got one keyword about threat. Then Sherlyn mentioned about the word challenge. So I think that I was in that trap last time about how to develop all these the affective domain, because I was in a trap to think that how much should I spend on cognitive development? How much should I spend on the cognitive development? So I was having this kind of balance, and that prevent me from thinking, hey, all this should be seamlessly integrated. So that was then. But I still hear some teachers will mention, hey, how much to spend about the team talk? Do we give them like a 5 minutes and so on? Then my response to them is it should not be a us versus them kind of thinking. It's not that, okay, you drop psychomotor, you reserve the affective. It should be integrated. So that is the part I thinking of how to help teachers to plan, to integrate all these domains together within that one activities.
Perhaps you can extend, rather than we look at a lesson as, you must start a lesson and end a lesson with a very specific lesson objective. So with the learning intention, the intention can spill over to the next lesson. And then we know, say for example, the game-based approach, the games concept approach, need not be finished as a template within one lesson. The inquiry and the learning experience continue beyond that lesson. So this is again an opportunity for us as teachers to reframe the kind of learning experiences that we put in our lesson to go beyond that one lesson. So that's probably an episode within a much larger learning experience.
That's right. And I think efforts like yours, Fazlin, when we talk about how do you then enact this through the SOW, in terms of that systematic planning, intentionality, maybe putting in one column there, on 41CC, right? So that teachers, when they look at the SOW or unit plan, they know, hey, these are the outcomes that we want to have, not in one lesson, but maybe a series of lessons. I think that such efforts is critical. So I think thanks for leading the way. Right?
Maybe I just add on. I think it is like when you said teachers asking for, because we have been teaching for 10 over 20 years. So some
I
things.
just started 5 years ago.
Okay.
Same.
BT, just BT over.
Same.
I mean, I'm just thinking that if I were to put myself at my BT years, there are things that now when we are talking about it, it's like, yeah, it should be just infused,
correct.
just come in, no need to say. But when you first start as a teacher, it really helps to give them that this can be a guide, but not cast in stone, and give the teachers the space to trial and error.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I thought that, I mean, like as much as I say, sometimes certain structures may cripple, may paralyze, like teachers may think it's so stifling, but we just need to really reiterate to the teachers that these aren't cast in stone. It's a guide, that you can use it, and probably also invite them to observe our lessons. Like, okay, maybe this lesson looks like that. I intentionally did this infused in the lesson. It's not like I carve out 10 minutes to do it. So I think that will probably help the younger teachers.
So River Valley, Sherlyn, she's opening her classroom. All right? So
I said fast.
Fraternity white.
I'll give you her number later on.
But that was my advice often to my mentees. Say, within your first 5 years, right, go and try everything. Go try every approach. Teacher-centered, student-centered, whatever. Just try. Maybe after the 5th year, you will find your unique teaching style. That's where it becomes your identity.
Okay.
Yeah. But the word try.
That's right.
Is good.
The
It doesn't
safe
have to be perfect.
space,
Yeah,
safe
it doesn't have to be
space.
perfect, right?
Right.
Yeah. If let's say a teacher says, okay, I want to try, they hear our podcast today, I want to try one strategy tomorrow. I want to try something tomorrow. Okay, what could that something be? What if the low-lying fruits for them to pick?
Catch the fruit.
Yes.
I would say be intentional in what you want to achieve.
Okay.
Often we heard teachers say, we don't teach PE, we teach students, right? So I will ask the teachers, what is it that you want to teach the child? Are you going to teach only how to throw a ball, or are you going to teach certain values or certain skills? So that, if the teacher can shift a bit that mindset, maybe the teacher will bring that element into their lesson planning. Yeah, so and that's where we can introduce how the teachers can leverage the effective learning opportunities, which I think they are doing, but they may not be familiar with the term. So it's up to us who knows about this to just give them an ideas. Hey, actually, what you're doing is you are leveraging the effective learning opportunities, and just make it seamless. Yeah, and then don't make it cognitive or psychomotor versus affective. All this can be infused.
Thank you. Hanif, what shall you?
I want to echo.
Echo, okay. Echo.
No, I think it's very important, like before the class, really the outcomes, the knowing what you want to see your students do. So it depends on the activity, and like if it's a group work, then be intentional. When the teacher goes in, I want to see this, and I want to look out for this, because when I'm observing the kids, besides looking at how they pass through or the strategies, I want to see whether they communicate with each other, or they use respectful language. Just target on one thing that they want to look at, so it's not too overwhelming.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think to quote our colleague Francis, what he always likes to advocate is try something new every day. Just build on, right? I think that's one way for us to progress. Yeah. Hanif?
Okay, my thought to that is remember the learner. Because sometimes as a teacher, we go through NIE training and we were very kind of fixated with content pedagogy assessment. What do I want to teach? That's the content. How do I teach? That's the pedagogy. How do I assess what I've already taught? And it's all very kind of, I wouldn't say teacher directed or teacher centered, but it's always viewed from the perspective of the teacher. But what about the learner? So the learner is actually right at the core where all three are overlapping. So the learner is the students and how ready they are. So for me, the advice is remember the learner, who is the learner, and are they ready for it? And maybe a motto, a philosophy that I've held for a long time is engage and create. I mean, this works well in my role, engaging teachers and teacher leaders. But as a teacher, perhaps that's where I first kind of embraced this philosophy. Engage the students, so that I can create possibilities for them and they can create more possibilities for themselves. So by empowering them, by getting them to set their own success criteria, giving them that space to try. So when I'm trying a new pedagogy, I'm also allowing them to try their own possibilities. So it's all about engaging them so that they can create more possibilities for themselves. And eventually it's about creating independent, autonomous students who can stand on their own feet. And that's probably, if you look at the current worldview of things, right, is that disposition that we want them to have for the future.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody. Maybe just one last rallying call or battle cry, for our friends out there.
Be intentional.
Be intentional. Okay.
Just do it.
Just do it. All right.
Let's go.
So, for me, I want to write on, and this is not because of my biases with a certain club. Okay, but you'll never.
Oh dear! Oh no!
It's really, as you mentioned, right? If you want our students to collaborate on that, right, then we as teachers should show the way, lah.
Yes.
I think, and there are many bright sparks out there, Fazlin, Sherlyn, in schools that we can leverage upon. I think yes, just know that you will never walk alone.
Yes, I agree with that.
Teaching,
Strongly.
our learning as well. Keep on learning, and try something simple. One new thing every day, and then you'll get to where you want to get. Yeah. With that, thank you very much. We will end this podcast series, and if you have any suggestion or feedback, do contact us, and we're happy to hear from you. Thank you so much.
Thank
you
you.
guys. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you.